A lot of return on investment metric that you see in your reporting is very misleading. And today I'm going to cover with you very quickly how you can avoid those traps. So in terms of return on investment, when you look at marketing, for example, the only thing that truly matters is what we call the blended ROAS. So it's the total marketing revenue, and we'll come back to that in a second, divided by the marketing spend. I usually also recommend to include everything that is salary, martech, and anything into that spend. So what is marketing revenue? So it's anything that is attributable to marketing. And that's where you have the first trap, is that what should not be attributable to marketing really is recommendation from friends, colleagues, family, and returning users. And if you use a tool like multi-touch attribution, you're already in troubles because multi-touch attribution will not be able to see if it's a returning customer or recommendation from recurrent users or any people who really value your brand. So that's the first thing to do. The only way really to tackle it, I saw, is using survey forms. It can be like a simple question like, how did you hear about us? Or more like deeper prospect surveys when you build your buyer personas. That number is huge. That number, I've seen it through several companies now. We're hovering around 20 to 40% of your total revenue. So if we take the middle point, that is 30%, if you do your total revenue divided by your marketing spend and you have 10 ROI, well, if you have 30% of people coming from a non-marketing channel, your ROI is already down to a third of that. And so that's the first trap that you need to avoid, is that you need to understand what is really driven by marketing, and multi-touch attribution can't do that. The second thing is looking at those ROI in reports at campaign level. I'll give a very good example. So first we start with our use case. We're at ROI at 10, and we know that we're actually around 6.5 because we have removed the non-marketing revenue. And then you create a brand search campaign, to use the obvious, and you look at the performance and you're like, oh, that's amazing. Actually, that brand campaign has a ROI of 8 and my total ROI is 6.5. So if I invest in campaigns that have a higher ROI, I should increase the overall ROI, right? Makes sense mathematically, yes. But it doesn't take into account the incrementality part of it. Your brand search, for example, are going to capture people who were going to buy anyway. And so your ROI will decrease, and you're going to decrease your margin because you have to pay an additional cost for your customers to buy. And so what you thought was a good idea actually is going to reduce your ROI from 6.5 to 5, for example. And this often happens in brand search, often happens in retargeting. And the opposite also happens. You look at, for example, some organic post, and you boost it and you spend a lot of money behind your boosting, and then you're like, oh, but those campaigns really doesn't drive any revenue, because you look at those reporting part of it. And this is why it's super important to actually do incrementality test to understand really what's the real impact of those, because what you see in the report is completely incorrect. And so the only way to understand what is the true value of those channels that don't look great on the reporting is, again, by survey, incrementality testing. So if we want to conclude, be very careful about those campaign ROI. Only look at your overall ROI. Make sure that in your overall ROI, you only look at marketing revenue, not total revenue. There is a difference to make. And in the spend, include also the salaries and the market cost. And obviously be very worried about using multi-touch tools for attribution, because they can be very misleading, as I explained before. Do implement self-attribution. I keep saying it, like I've seen it like in a massive $1 billion B2B company. I've seen it now like in a company making $500 million revenue. Self-attribution provide information that other tools can't. So you can't just say, oh, no, it doesn't work. It gives a lot of important information. Should you rely on it alone? No. But you should look into it. Like, for example, on one of the recent clients we did is that we saw that a lot of clients were mentioning Facebook. And then so what we did is that we started to roll some tests about it. We started to push the spend to see if we see an increase. And then we saw the increase. And so the self-attribution was confirmed by the test. But the thing is, if we didn't have self-attribution in place first, we wouldn't know where to look. So yeah, it's extremely valuable at any size of companies. I'm talking to this again because I saw the example just recently that company like made a massive year-on-year profit increase with those hypotheses coming from that report. So don't neglect it. And yes, incrementality is key. Don't trust the ROI numbers in those reporting tools. And this is where I have issues with BI often. It's because BI, you just like blend all the data together and then you look at the revenue by campaign and so on. But all of those numbers are actually wrong. So that's another thing. Question BI tools in their way to provide you insights. And keep growing. And if I can help you in any way, just reach out. Like, you know, I'm always happy to have a little chat with another companies and have the company pick my brains just to a few questions, no string attached. It's always valuable for me also to go through several use cases. So that's where the value is for me. See you later.